Welcome to the Financial Co-Pilot podcast and video channel, where airline pilot and CFP professional Dan Lohmar shares techniques, interviews, and perspectives about financial planning and life in general for airline pilots. Here's your host, Dan Lohmar.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode on the Financial Co-Pilot podcast and video channel. I'm super excited to have you back with me. Today we're talking about the PRAP, the Pilot's Retirement Account Plan. That's our nickname for our 401k for pilots at United. Here at United Wealth Management, we be getting more and more inquiries from newly hired pilots about financial planning and about the PRAP and so on and so forth. And probably one of the more common things we hear is, I don't understand all the details about the PRAP. Well, you're not alone. I've been working with United pilots for 15 years. And I still, even for some folks coming up on retirement, there's still aspects about the 401k that aren't perfectly clear to them, or some advantages they didn't know they had they could take advantage of, and things like that. So welcome to the club as far as that goes. But I'm here to kind of help clarify those things and kind of give you a big overview of what the PRAP is about, and try to explain some more of the big picture stuff, not all the intricacies, but really just some things to get you going in the right direction. And if you've been at United for a while, hey, this is a great review for you too, because again, I still run into folks who kind of miss some of the opportunities in the 401k. So hey, before we get going, hey, remember to subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you know when new videos come out, and remember to share this video, because I say it every time. The folks who need to hear this the most are probably not the ones watching the video. So share it on Facebook, LinkedIn, email, Twitter, whatever. Try to get the word out and help everybody out. So let's jump into it. The PRAP, it is our 401k. We actually have two 401ks inside the PRAP. The PRAP is kind of our nickname for the whole thing. It's the Pilot's Retirement Account Plan. Inside that, we actually have two 401ks. One is a traditional 401k where the money goes in pre-tax. Either your contributions or the company's contributions go in pre-tax. And on that side, they grow tax deferred. But on that side, when they come out in retirement, they get taxed in retirement. So you're going to get on the traditional side, you kind of get a tax break up front, but then you have to pay the taxes on the back end. The other 401k is a Roth 401k. And that really is just where you make after-tax contributions. The company can't put money in that account. All their contributions are pre-tax. So this is where you would put money in after taxes. So you got to pay the taxes up front, but the advantage of that is that it's going to go tax-free, and then qualified withdrawals in retirement, they come out tax-free. So whether you put money into the traditional 401k or the Roth 401k, is a matter of kind of the big picture. There is looking at your tax bracket. If you're not making as much money in your first couple of years and you're in a lower tax bracket, most likely that's a better time to put money into the Roth, because you would anticipate your tax bracket would be higher in the future. So that's the big difference between those two. When you log on there and see it, there's nothing really other than how you make contributions that tell you there's actually two 401k. So all the stuff in there, once the money goes in, it's kind of commingled. And again, the only way you can tell is that there is a contributions detail list on the PRAP website that'll tell you how your contributions are broke down, whether they're company contributions or your pre-tax contributions, your Roth contributions. So there's a way to kind of tell that, but it's all invested. As far as the way it's invested, it's all kind of commingled. And I'll talk about here in just a second on how you make your contribution elections. So how much money can go into the PRAP? The company contributes 16% right off the bat. So that's not a matching contribution. It's independent of whether the pilot elects to contribute or not. Automatically 16%. It's a great, that's a great rate. And then you, the pilot, you can elect how much you want to put in there. Okay, so you're going to go on there on the website, and you're going to make either a pre-tax or a Roth contribution. You can do one or the other or both. Okay, and so you make your election on there. You can put up to 100% of your paycheck in there if you want to. Not quite 100, because there's some other things to consider. There's some other money that has to come out. But if you really, really wanted to, you could put up to 100% of your paycheck in there. Of course, there are some limits on it. talk about that in a second. But anyway, you can kind of elect what you want to do. Some people say, hey, I want to put in an even amount throughout the year to kind of dollar cost average. So that's one technique. But you will make your election, whether it's pre-tax or Roth. You can choose a percent of income, or you can set a dollar amount, whatever works for you. But talking about the limits, let's talk about that for a second. So yes, you could put up to almost 100% of your paycheck in there if you wanted to. And there's reasons down the road why you actually would, but it's kind of beyond this topic right now. But either way, there's only so much that you can put in there. So the IRS says, hey, look, you can put money in there, but you can't put an unlimited amount. So what they do is they stop those contributions. They stop their pre-tax and or Roth, or the combination of. They stopped all those contributions at $20,500. And that's the 2022 limit. And that's if you're under 50. Now, if you're over 50, they let you put an additional $6,500. That's called a catch-up contribution. Then, so you could total $27,000 for the year if you're over 50. So that's the limit on personal pre-tax or Roth contributions. The company contributions, 16%. Again, they're on top of that. So the limit on that one, so later on, it's not a factor when you're just starting out, you're on the lower end of the pay scale, but later on is you will bump up against those big limits. And this year, if you're under 50, the total contributions is $61,000. And if you're over 50, the total contributions of $67,000. Probably not a big factor right now as you're first starting out, but later on it does, because that leads to spillover into the active health reimbursement arrangement. So that's the amount you can put in. There's no need to monitor your contributions throughout the year. So if you're putting in, I'm just going to say 20% right now, and it's projected that you're going to max out at the $20,500 limit, let's just say in October, you don't need to keep an eye on that. Once it hits that limit, the PRAP knows it can't take any more because it's against the IRS rules. So they just shut them off automatically. And if you're not making any other contributions beside that, basically you just get a bigger paycheck for the rest of the year. So there's no need to monitor those contributions as they go in throughout the year. The money that goes in there is 100% vested right away, not invested. You actually make that choice, but vested, meaning it's in your name. It's all yours. United can't get their hands back on it, and creditors can't get their hands back on it. So that means it's 100% yours as soon as it goes in there. The 16% is what United puts in. That comes out each pay period. That's 16% of gross pay. So for each pay period, they put in 16% in. So after that, so that's kind of how the money gets in. The other way to have money go in there is one, vacation forfeiture. So if you didn't get your vacation for some reason, sometimes it happens because they schedule you for training, like upgrade or new airplane school, something like that. Is they'll schedule over vacation, so your vacation has a potentially getting dropped. So that could end up in there as a vacation forfeiture. And the other way that really is a good thing to know is that you can roll in your other 401ks from other employers. So you can take your 401k from there, and you can actually roll it into this plan, or an IRA that can be rolled into PRAP. Now there are some restrictions on that because the PRAP doesn't take everything. Like if those accounts have any post-tax money into them, there could be some restrictions on stuff like that. But that's just something good to know, because the big advantage of that is really just having all your investments at one place. And again, the choices in the COI funds, and then also with the availability of the PCRA, those are some good ways to kind of consolidate everything with some really good investment choices. So that's the next thing. I mentioned the PCRA, but let's back up for a second. So once the money is in there, you decide how much you want to put in. Now, once it's in there, you have to decide where you want to invest it. Now, if you don't do anything as a new hire, the default is the auto target date fund that's associated with your anticipated retirement age. The target date funds are a mix of automatically managed mutual funds. That's a mix of stock mutual funds and bond mutual funds. And the longer you are from retirement, the more aggressive it is, meaning the more exposure it has to the stock market. And that means it's the more growth oriented, because the anticipation is you don't need to tap that for many, many years. But then the closer you get to retirement, it automatically on its own gets more conservative. And so that's what it's automatically invested in. is the target date fund. So as just an example, if you're 35 in 2022, they would anticipate a retirement age and retirement in 30 years. So you'd be invested in the 2052, or actually it'd be the 2050 or the 2055 target date fund. I don't know exactly which, but right now, this far out, there's not any difference between the 2050 and the 2055 target date fund. So that's the automatic investment. If you want to leave it there, perfectly fine. If you wanted to make it a little bit more customized, then you can choose among the other mutual funds that are available to you. And I call those the core funds. And those are a list of funds of like just regular actively managed mutual funds, some index funds, stock mutual funds, bond mutual funds. And that's where you would go in and say, hey, of these contributions, I want these contributions to go into these particular funds. And that's just a way you can customize it for yourself. Now, the other option for investing wise is called the PCRA, the Personal Choice Retirement Account. And that is an account you actually have to open. It doesn't come automatically, but you have to call the PRAP Service Center and say, hey, I want to open a PCRA account. They're going to send you the paperwork, all that stuff. But what that is it's very, very similar to a retail brokerage account. And now, instead of just this limited selection of the mutual funds, of the core funds, and there's nothing wrong with those being limited, because because sometimes too much choice is not always a good thing. So, but anyway, the PCRA, that's what it does. It expands your options. You can now go individual stocks, individual bonds, bond mutual funds, exchange traded funds, index funds. Really, you could go in there and really customize your portfolio however you want it. And that's what we do at United Wealth Management, is we actually have our clients' money in the PCRA so that we can customize a portfolio according to their financial plan, their risk tolerance, and all that good stuff. And then we also have some mutual funds available to us in there that aren't available in the core fund. So that's just a matter of preference. That's something you could do. And again, the caveat to that would be know what you're doing over there, because one of the benefits of the core funds is they kind of give you a limited choice, and those are good funds. And so again, too many choices can be overwhelming in certain ways. So that's the Personal Choice Retirement Account. And again, it's not automatic. That's something you have to call the PCRA and say, hey, I want to open one of these to get going with. That's really the big picture of what it's about. What do you need to get going to get yourself set up? I've got those steps on the checklist. The first thing is call, the website is schwab.com/PRAP, or call the PRAP Service Center. I've got the number on the checklist, and they're really, really good about providing assistance. My experience of working with the PRAP representatives at Schwab is really good. I've always they've been really good to work with. They're really good about getting back to you, answering questions and stuff like that. But the one thing they can't do is offer financial advice. So you might tell them how much you want to contribute, but if you ask them how much you should, or where you should invest, or what the market's doing, or stuff like that, they can help you out with stuff like that. So they're strictly there for transactional reasons, but they do a really good job as far as helping out folks. But anyway, on the rest of the checklist, basically you're going to go on there, you're going to make your post-tax, you're going to make your contribution elections. I've kind of got the steps to do that. How much you want to do, pre-tax, Roth. You can do a combination of those things, one or the other, and you'll submit that. And then the other thing too, I'll mention this real quick, just it's more of a FYI, put this in your back pocket for the time being. While you're on the lower end of the pay scale, it's probably not going to be a factor, but you're going to have an election on there. It's going to ask for post-tax contributions. Now I mentioned earlier, Roth contributions are also after taxes. I refer to them as after taxes because post-tax contributions is another election option. And again, that money comes out post-tax. The taxes are already taken out on those. But what that is before you can do post-tax contributions, your IRS personal contribution limits have to be reached. So you have to have personally already contributed $20,500 or $27,000 in 2022. You have to have already contributed and hit that limit before post-tax contributions kick in. Now, post-tax contributions is just another way that you can put money in the 401k above these limits. The big difference is post-tax contributions go into the pre-tax account. That's where they go if you don't do anything. And that's where the confusion lies in, because people say, well, I thought Roth contributions were post-tax contributions. Well, I do, but that's also why I refer to them as after-tax contributions. So these are post-tax. If you don't do anything, they go into the pre-tax account. They grow tax deferred, but if you leave them in there, then the growth in retirement gets taxed. But what people do, and this is the big advantage of this, is right now we're allowed to do what's called an in-plan Roth conversion. And so it's super easy on the Schwab website. You can make post-tax elections. They go in. Schwab's does it so easy that as soon as those post-tax contributions go in, they get converted to the Roth, and it's called an in-plan Roth conversion. Now, the thing I'll say about that is that we almost lost this opportunity with the tax law change that was proposed last year that did not pass. There was no opposition on either party to this change. And so I wouldn't doubt it a bit if in the future we lose the opportunity to do the in-plan Roth conversion. Some people refer to it as a mega backdoor Roth 401k. But just kind of keep that in your back pocket, because you're going to hear people talk about it. And the other big advantage is post-tax contributions is that I've got a whole video on this, and it's well beyond this topic right now of what the PRAP is. But once the limits get reached, and when you're up there on the top end of the pay scale and you're maxing yours out and you're putting some post-tax contributions in and United's putting theirs in, you're going to hit the top limit, 61,000 or 67.5. You're going to start to hit those later on in your career. And when that happens, that's when HRA spillover happens, because United doesn't have any more room to put any more money into the IRA or the 401k. So that's when spillover happens. So again, don't need to know the details about these things right now, but kind of put that in your back pocket and just go, yeah, it's out there, and down the road, this will be something I might want to consider doing, because it is a huge tax advantage to have that spillover in HRA and so on and so forth. So anyway, I've got another video about that. If you really want to get into the details, I'll put that down on the show notes, and also I'll link to it above here in this video. Anyway, that's the big picture. I kind of hope this helps. I know there's a lot to consider. Download the checklist so you can use it as a reference. Follow the steps if you want to do that. Otherwise, call the PRAP Service Center. Let them get set up. I'm also going to have a link down below. You can take a risk tolerance quiz. That's another big part of selecting the investments that are suitable for you, is really knowing what your risk tolerance is and making sure that your risk tolerance and your portfolio risk tolerance are fairly, they don't have to be perfectly matched, but as long as you kind of understand the volatility aspect of how you're investing, it'll kind of help you do that. So I'll put that link down on the show notes also, and also have it in the checklist. Anyway, hey, let me know if you got any questions. I hope that helps. Hope it's a quick overview. I know there's a lot of information. I could go into even more and more detail about some of this stuff, but dive into it and just go for it. I try to make the checklist as simple as possible. Hey, until next time, remember to subscribe to my channel. Hit the bell icon so you know when new videos come out, and share this video. Please share this video, because again, the folks who need it the most are not the ones watching it. So, hey, until next time, welcome to United, and fly safe out there.